living la vida low carb. This show is changing lives. We talking about your diet, trying to get you feeling right. Cut up them avocados, fry some eggs, time to explore the longest running health podcast, hosted by Jimmy Moore. Time to give up the crappy garbage, we're getting into ketosis. Every day is a new step to your goal, yeah, you're getting closer. Motivated and focused, don't stop, just go. Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
So guys, today I'm very privileged to welcome a good friend of mine. She is Kira Kellerman, and she is a very interesting name over on Instagram. She's going to explain what that means here in a minute, but it's KIROCHKA13S. All right, Kira, you have to tell me, what is that?
So, hi, Jimmy. I'm Russian, and so my name in Russian is Kira. And so if you are close with me and your familiar form of Kira would be Kirachka, it would be the same as saying Jimmychka, you know, like someone, it's not formal. And then the 13 is my power number and the S is possessive. So 13s, you know, Kirachka 13s. And yeah, that's all it is. And it's unique and it's only mine and it means special things to me. So
I remember the first time you came on one of my Instagram lives and I saw that. So there's Kiro 113S. I didn't know what to say. And then there's Kira. So
yes. It's a lot easier just Kira, but I didn't want to just be that.
I love that Ichka kind of means a friend of mine or someone very informally I want to greet. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Kira. She is an influential biohacker. She's lost 135 plus pounds, you guys, is into fitness living. She does jiu-jitsu and other things, and 50 years old doing jiu-jitsu. See, it's never too late, guys. Get at it. She's getting on.
Get some.
More of that kind of thing. She eats carnivore and has been for the past several years and enjoys that. And she used to deal with a lot of the symptoms of what we're going to talk about here today of multiple sclerosis and PCOS and a partridge in a pear tree. You've been through the ringer and been able to overcome a lot of the inevitabilities of what your doctors told you. That's why I wanted you on here today. So officially, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so why don't we start with your story, because multiple sclerosis, PCOS, I mean, eczema, you can talk about all the things that you dealt with. That was a lot to handle. And when you went to doctors to try to help you handle them, you didn't exactly get the answers that you wanted, and you had lots of frustration. So tell your story, express some of what those frustrations were.
Sure, thank you. So I was living the American life on the standard American diet, you know, and I was probably just, you know, moderately active, I would say, office worker in IT. So there's a lot of sitting, a lot of overtime, you know, and that transition from college to work, a lot of sitting, a lot of late nights, a lot of lost sleep. You know, and at the time I had a young son and everything. I didn't think I was, you know, unhealthy, you know, like, you know, overly. I mean, I didn't have a lot of pain, but at the end of 2008, October through December, I started getting really bad headaches, yada, yada. I get diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Turns out, you know, now I have all these, you know, specialist neurologists. They're telling me nothing about diet. They're just saying, well, this is it. And, you know, it's relapsing, remitting multiple sclerosis. And you will, you know, it'll eventually progress to the bad kind.
They basically said to you, Kira, deal with it.
They did. And I actually started crying. In the waiting room. I was sitting up on the table, you know, and they make you, you know, whack your elbow to check your reflexes, follow the finger, all these tests. And I was crying, and the neurologist said, "Why are you crying? It's not cancer." So basically, I can only cry if it's cancer. And they told me I'd be in a wheelchair by age 50. They gave me this injectable medication, and I was given absolutely zero hope. So I went home and I was like, you know, what do you do? That was January 22nd or so. I started beta-seron, and I started injecting subcutaneously with a needle, and that was my first experience with needles.
How long ago was this, Kira?
That was at the end of December 2008.
2008.
So
okay.
January 2009, I started beta-seron, and that's when basically I stopped sleeping. It was every other night I would not sleep, and that's when the weight gain started.
Yes.
I couldn't even lay flat. My tailbone was on fire. It hurt so bad to just sit. It was better for me to just keep moving a little, but it gave me horrible stomach aches. As time goes on, basically horrible gastric reflux. They put me on the max dose of Nexium. I can't take any more Nexium, 40 milligrams a day. They don't give me anything for pain. They're okay with me eating 9 Advil a day. They don't give me any. They keep saying, oh, maybe you need antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and I'm like, but I'm in pain. And they didn't help, and they didn't give me any stretching exercises, nothing to do. Yeah. So I lost my gallbladder in 2012, and I developed non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I still had eczema. I was breaking out on my legs, arms. My hands were cracked. My knuckles were cracked from eczema. And then I started developing bronchitis every winter and pneumonia every summer, and I would cough for months at a time. I'd go to the office and people would be like looking at me like, is she okay? And I just couldn't catch my breath. It was horrible. But basically December 16, 2018 was my moment. I had enough. So here it is, 10 years of a multiple sclerosis diagnosis, and December 16, 2018, I absolutely had it. I could not take anymore. I was working like 60, 65 hours a week for my employer. I was killing myself. I couldn't breathe. It was cold. My driveway was full of snow. I had a shovel to get to prompt care. I mean, it was just awful. And finally got myself to prompt care, and they said, you're 262 pounds, your blood pressure's through the roof, you're gonna have a stroke or a heart attack, you gotta lose weight. Well, I've been hearing that gotta lose weight thing for a long time, but
yes,
they gave me this broth diet because of the gallbladder attacks, and there was no help.
Here's the problem with all that. They say you wait, but then they give instructions about that. And so people default to what they've heard they should do: low fat, high healthy whole grains, exercise till you drop on the treadmill. Like,
that's right.
We do all of the right things that they tell us to do. We're trying to do the right things because we're desperately wanting to be better. And what you discovered is they were pushing more of the same, more drugs. I can't believe that, oh, you're feeling bad, here's another drug. Oh, you need an antidepressant, here's another drug. And it's just like everything is drug, and nothing about diet and lifestyle, which it's kind of been underscored the past couple of years with all the things happening in the world, that's the thing that they think is the answer to everything. I think patients like you in 2018, I want to hear the rest of your story, patients are starting to wake up and realize that these doctors, God bless them, they know how to put a broken arm back together, but they don't know a damn thing about chronic disease, and that people are going to have to pull themselves up by the bootstrap like you did in December 2018 with what you're about to tell the story of, and take control themselves, because unfortunately pharmaceutical companies and doctors do not have your best interests in mind with those kinds of things.
That's correct, Jimmy. And I just want to let you know, they thought I was doing great. They said, You're doing great. Keep up with the injections.
What
You have great cholesterol. They told me I had great cholesterol.
Right.
And that's all
Whatever
they cared.
that-
And they said, I had to get my liver and my kidneys tested all the time because of all the medications they were putting through me. Just horrible, awful. And
in their eyes, Kira, you were doing great because cha-ching, 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 all the drugs you were on, all the visits that you had to make, all the liver biopsies to check to make sure your liver was okay. Like, of course, they thought you were okay. And this is just the cynical side of me. And I know you have this feeling as well, because you went through the ringer and back with the medical system. The medical system, it's not made for trying to help make people healthy. It's just to manage and do a bad job at that.
Exactly. So I was to the point where as years go by, I'm like, this isn't working. And by 2014, I just stopped medication, and unfortunately I didn't change the diet,
Right.
because I just had to I had to sleep finally, and I had a really bad flare up. My right eye stopped moving and it got stuck looking at my nose. So imagine, like, you look that way with your eyes, but only one of them is that way, and this eye can move however it wants. So I had double vision. It was the worst ever. And I'm like, that's it. You're right. I do have MS. I should have never gone rogue. So this was scary for me, because by 2018, I did it again. And I said, I've had it with you, knowing full well I had a flare up. And that's even scarier, right?
But that's the thing. That's the thing. They push patients to their frustration level, because patients have this notion in their minds that, okay, the doctor's trying to make me better. And I'm sure when you went initially in 2008, okay, I'm going to see them. They're going to make me better.
That's right.
And what happened? You went on all the protocols, all the drugs, all the everything they told you to do. Were you getting better? Maybe nominally, temporarily when you first start the protocol, but long term, you're like, I'm no better than when I started. Why am I taking all these medications? Why are all these expensive pills the answer when they're clearly not the answer? It's like getting a drug that doesn't really work the way they say it's supposed to. That sounds familiar. And so, sorry, I couldn't resist. And so 2018, you go rogue a second time. You're scared. What happened?
Yeah, at that point, I didn't care. I'm like, well, maybe I'll die. Maybe that's even better, because this is no quality of life. There's nothing here for me. And a few years before that, I got an iPhone for the first time. I went to an iPhone, and I realized I have to track my passwords. I can't remember things. And they put these thoughts in my brain. Cognitive decline is very common for MS people. If you misspeak, like, I would turn my words around, I would say things, and like, I'd kind of have to laugh about it, but it wasn't funny at all. I used to be really sharp, and everything, I felt like I was drunk walking around at work. I couldn't carry my laptop and a coffee and take the stairs. The balance was hard. Everything was difficult. And then people would, like, oh my God, she's taking the elevator for one flight. Just go down the stairs. But yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't do it anymore. And it's not because I used to be able to do all these things. So I just couldn't take it anymore. They were not making me better. They made me horribly worse, and
Yes.
They gave me no hope of ever even having. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I was 38 when I was diagnosed, and if life expectancy maybe like into the 80s, I'm like, I have what, like maybe 50 years, 45, 50 years of this. This is no life at all. And anyway, I'm really glad that I had the courage to say, my favorite F word, FO, And I didn't even tell anyone. I didn't tell the doctors. I was just trying to breathe and not throw up, and just, my lungs were on fire. So
I want you to create a song called FO. That would be such a big
right.
A lot of people ask me, Jimmy, how do you get such good deep sleep? Well, there's a lot of things that I do, but one of the newest things that I recently added is this upgraded magnesium from a company called Upgraded Formulas. Go to their website, upgradedformulas.com, and you can learn all about this nano technology that they use for this particular mineral of magnesium. Again, it's called Upgraded Magnesium, and it's got all the different forms of magnesium in it, using the nanotechnology so it gets absorbed a lot better. Guys, I have seen my deep sleep improve by as much as 30 to 40% simply by adding in this product along with sunshine exposure, darkness in the room, cooler temperature, all of the things that I always have done. So again, upgradedformulas.com is the website. Go check them out.
Actually, I work out now, and apparently I'm kind of an athlete, people say, but I bought myself a couple rings. I'm not wearing them right now because I went to the gym yesterday. One of them is like a lotus ring. It means rebirth. And I feel like I've been kind of reborn into this new body. Yeah. And the other one is really a pretty little ring, and it's cursive, and it's basically the F word, but it's in cursive. So maybe most people, younger people, might not be able to read it, but I think that's hilarious. So
yes, I love it. And you are definitely today a badass, and I want to talk about that here in a minute. But tell us, in December 2018, you started the Rogue thing. You started Carnivore. Tell us how you found out about it. Was it Sean Baker? How did you find out about it?
Okay, so I actually didn't know what I had started because I was just not able to keep any food down. So it was mostly, I guess it was kind of fasting. I didn't even know it. I was just so sick. And then when I finally got to reintroduce some foods to keep things down, I decided I'm not going to eat any fast food, processed food. I'm not going to eat bread. I'm not going to eat rice. I kind of started like a bit of a paleo kind of thing, but I didn't even know what paleo was. Lost 20 pounds, and then I was feeling a little bit better. But when you're 262, what's 20 pounds? To be quite honest, I didn't actually go keto until September 1st, 2019. And at that point, I was doing somewhat well, just being, I would walk. I did a lot of walking, so much so that I hurt my knee. And it's my left knee. It still gives me issues in jiu-jitsu to this day at times when I get rolled. But I was walking, and then I'm like, I hurt my knee. I got to move to swimming. I did the swimming, but there's all these kids in the pool. I got to find a new gym. I got to find a gym with a pool. I got to do yoga. Started changing things up. And that whole changing things up, it actually works in the diet too. You can't eat the same way every day. No. So, but I wasn't actually feeling the full effects of full like superpowers until I went carnivore. And carnivore happened for me in 2020 on May 1st. I decided, I was listening to the Keto Diet podcast, and she had you and other people on there. That's how I learned about you. Leanne Vogel. Yeah. And she had Paul Saladino on there, and I was like, this guy only eats meat? Oh my God, how's he not dead, right? Because I was still like, fruits and vegetables. You don't need fruits and vegetables. And I tried it, and I'm like, I feel better than I have ever felt in my entire life. Why did we ever eat any fruits and vegetables? So I started the carnivore, but I still felt like every now and then, because of hormone support, I would go back to keto, like a keto carnivore. I would switch back, eat some avocado, because I really love avocado, some berries, and the timing of it. So I really started doing all the research. I was just eating it up. Now in 2020, we have the pandemic, and then at that point, I felt like my life hadn't changed at all because I had already canceled my cable. I don't watch TV. I am just learning, and I am just soaking it all up. I listen to everybody's podcasts. I'm just eating it all up. Sean Baker, Paul Saladino, all of them. I'm just eating it all up. All the keto people, all the cholesterol people, all of them. I just can't get enough. And so that's really how the journey went. It just kind of morphed. And then at that point, I got down to, 135, 36 pound loss, but I felt kind of like maybe I should have been lifting or doing something along the way because, just the treadmill is not enough. And so I really started doing weight training after I went carnivore because I would say peanut butter and jelly, but I don't eat either of those. So I would say it's like steak and butter, maybe.
Butter.
Yeah. So that's when I added the weights, and
not just weight. You added some hardcore stuff.
I did.
And it's amazing because back in 2012, 14, when you were kind of lamenting all this and you wanted to go rogue the initial time, the idea that you would be doing something like jiu-jitsu, which is very elite level of athletic performance, or parkour, or some of these like hardcore things that people do, it wouldn't even have crossed your mind. It was everything you could do to do that steps while holding your laptop and your cup of coffee. You couldn't do that. So now it's so empowering, and your story is so powerful, Kira. It's one reason I wanted you on the show. Plus, I adore you as a friend. I feel like people need to know that they have barely even tapped into what their potential is. And you're living proof of that. The fact that you pushed yourself in 2018 to make a change when everything within your brain and heart and everything was saying, no, I've got to keep doing what the doctors say. But then your brain tells you, but it hasn't been working. And then your brain goes back, but I need to do something because I can't live 50 more years like that. It's like this conflict in your mind.
Yeah.
Come to a culmination at some point.
How can I be doing great? As my neurologist told me, how can I be doing great when I had such terrible stomach aches from all of that medication that I would have to get up in the night to take a bite of some bread. My stomach was like, it was like a 4x4 going through my body. It was horrible. And just to let you know, that medication is made by Bayer. And I was at Lowe's getting something to kill some weeds. And I'm like, hey, that's the same logo as on my injectable medication. I'm like, why am I putting this in my body? They know how to kill.
They make poisons coming and going. So.
Oh, yes, they do. So
I will be fair. Some medications are life-saving. Let's put that out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Not as a maintenance drug. I don't think there's any drug people other than insulin for type 1 diabetics. That would be the only exception I can think of just off the top of my head. But most people that take a maintenance drug like Lipitor to lower their cholesterol, you don't have a Lipitor deficiency. At least type 1 diabetics have an insulin deficiency, so they actually need insulin. Most medications people go on, it's designed for you to keep taking it. That's how they make their profits.
For life. And
it's the jaded view, but you and I both are jaded.
We are. That's why we're friends.
Yes.
But it's for life.
Yes.
There was never a plan. There was never an exit strategy. There was never a plan for reversal. And it's meant to progress into something worse. So I just recently was asked by both my general practitioner and my neurologist, because they hadn't seen me in a while. I used to go there all the time. They would always give me an inhaler, prednisone, antibiotics all the time. They were killing my gut microbiome. Oh my God, the Advil. So basically I've stopped all drugs since second quarter of 2020.
Right.
And while everybody else was having this horrible life with the black plague and freaking out, I was thriving. I was doing great. And I just wanted to let people know, because you talk about the scale a lot. No one had noticed I lost weight until after I lost my first 70 pounds.
Right.
So imagine if you're one of those people that's looking at the scale and you're like, wow, I lost 20 pounds and no one said anything. No one said anything about my weight loss until I lost 70 pounds.
It was 100 for me in my initial Atkins weight loss. I lost 100 pounds before anybody said, "Did you get a new haircut? Something's different." I didn't tell.
Yeah, and it's kind of disheartening, I guess, to the person that's, lost the weight, but I have to tell you, Jimmy, it was really easy to lose the weight, and it was super delicious. To this day, I love everything I eat. When people are like, oh, you have such self-control, I'm like, well, I do hold back from eating the second steak, but I might eat your steak if you don't eat it.
Is that what you primarily eat, is steak?
Mostly beef, lamb, and I do shrimp. So I do liver as well. I post pictures, but liver doesn't photograph so well. It's not a very pretty food. The steak is so pretty. You can take pictures of it.
Show liver in its raw form. It's very slimy. It's very gross looking. But yeah, even if you cook it, unless you grind it in with the ground beef and make like liver ground beef burgers, then you can hide it. But otherwise, yeah, it just looks weird. It starts to shrivel up if you cook it in the pan.
Yeah.
So,
I gotta say, for anyone that hates liver, you probably had someone cook it poorly for you, because before all this, I loved cooking and I was a great chef. So I still am a great chef. I know how to cook, and liver should really be almost rare when you eat it. It's actually sweet. It's actually sweet.
Treat it like sushi. It's better as raw as possible. And in fact, many years ago, speaking of paleo, I remember Chris Kresser in the paleo world. He would talk about, wanting to get your liver in, but you can't stand the taste of it. Slice it into little slivers that look like a pill, freeze them in your freezer, and then take it as a pill every day. You get the liver, it gets digested, you get all the benefit, and you don't need that much, just a little sliver, and you get all the benefits that you need from it.
But I actually like the taste. I actually want to eat it. I love eating it. So because my goals have changed now, I did reverse dieting to kind of gain weight, because in jiu-jitsu, when you're too lightweight, you kind of get swept a lot and kind of ragdoll. I just changed jiu-jitsu places, so I'm with Pedigo now, and so I get to roll with men, and they're a lot stronger than me. I actually got arm barred the other day. My arm is still a little sore, so I highly recommend it.
And the Kira that I know as my friend, she gonna keep doing whatever it takes to beat said men at the gym.
I try, but
well,
I am 5'2".
They do have genetic reasons why they could be stronger than you, but hey, hold your own, and at least look, they're hardening you up so that if you're ever attacked by a woman, that'll be a piece of cake. So.
Right, and in life in general, we saw some outbreaks and some things that went a little crazy in our world, and I just think it's great for everyone to just be prepared for anything. Make your body do the best that it can. I seek sun. I don't get sunburn anymore. I'm a redhead. Carnivore, yes. I don't sunburn anymore. It's just really crazy stuff. Like, this is stuff I would never believe. This is how I became a biohacker. I was like, right, I don't believe any of this. So I just started testing it on myself. I tested, I get my blood drawn, I request it when my doctor, if he pushes back, I say, well, if you don't order it, I'll just buy it myself. I don't really
Well,
need you. I was just trying to save money.
that's the beauty of the modern age. Literally any medical test that you want, save for, I think, New York State, New Jersey. There's a few of those northeastern states that outlaw you being able to do this, but most other states allow you to go online to anylabtestnow.com. I use one called privatemdlabs.com, but it's all these little lab sites, and you can pick and choose all the labs that you want, and it will send you the procurement papers to go take down to your local LabCorp or Quest, and you can use health savings account dollars to pay for those tests. I guess straight up, there's no insurance coverage, thus saving money like you were talking about. But if you want a test done, like I want fasting insulin, I'm trying to keep an eye on that every once in a while. My doctor, that circa 7 years ago, stopped testing my insulin. You're not diabetic. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to keep it that way. I don't want to be a diabetic. I need to keep an eye on that. Well, I'm not going to run it. I'm like, I'll pay for it out of pocket. No, I'm not going to run it. You're fired. And so I had to do that, and I started doing my own tests. Now, I'm very fortunate because I do have access to lots of doctors with what I do for a living. And so if I run tests and I don't quite understand what they mean, I've got several MD friends that can say, oh, yeah, this, and this, try this, and this. But not everybody has that luxury. They have to rely on what the doctor runs. And then, and I'm sure you this as well, it's in the range, kind of like
it's normal, but it's not normal if you look at ratios or compared to other things. So my cholesterol came back super high because somebody made up the 200 number, like 8 glasses of water, like who makes up all these things? So that's when I reached out to you, because I was listening to your Jimmy rants and things like that. You were talking about cholesterol, and I bought that book twice. I ordered 2 of those books of yours, the cholesterol. Yeah, that's the one. One for me and one for my GP.
Tired of playing the mask game? Me too. That's why I wanted to tell you about the Unmask. This is a breathable, completely breathable. It covers, you can't even see that it's breathable, but it's breathable. Whether you're going on a plane, having to go into a store and wearing this thing, playthemaskgame.com is how you can get this mask. They come in all kinds of colors and everything. In fact, right there, you can see right through it what it is, but when you're wearing it, it does not look like it's anything different, but it's breathable, baby. Playthemaskgame.com.
Because
I remember giving that book when it came out. 2013 was when it came out, and I remember giving it to my doctor, and he went, that's all he did. He just kind of shook his head, and I was like, I hope you read it and you learn some things. And here's the problem, like empowered patients like me and Kira Kellerman, I don't know what they think about us doctors. I think it has to be extremely difficult to know as a doctor that you went through all of that education, all the pre-med, all the medical school, all the post-doc and the internship and all the residency, all those things to get to the point that then you work for a group, and then maybe you're out on your own at some point. And then along comes this patient and says, well, I know better than you, or I've got information you don't have. I'm sure in their minds that has to play a little bit. And so I always try to be very careful about not sounding smug that I know more than them, but I know more than them.
I don't hold back, Jimmy. I'm really bad at that. Maybe you're more tactful, but I just come right out and tell them it's like I have no filter. They've destroyed so many years of my life that I don't care anymore. I even signed that book, Dr. blah, blah, blah. I don't want to put his name in case he watches it, and I may want some more.
I know.
Yeah, right? I said, please read this. And if your staff ever calls me to offer me statins, just look into this cholesterol book.
Look at chapter 5. If he tries to do statins, read chapter 5, which, by the way, I co-authored with an MD, and then I had a crap load of MDs on the back.
Right.
I'm going to clarity quote people all throughout the book. So, yeah, I mean, people have tried to say, well,
crazy.
Jimmy Moore's not a doctor. Why did he write that book? I'm like, I had a lot of doctors on my side. I promise you.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is I'm also not a doctor, and yet you can't take my results away.
No.
Just because you say the normal range, whatever, I think I had a 357 total cholesterol. I felt great. I talked to you about it because I reached out to you, and I'm like,
Yep.
What's up with the triglycerides? And you told me I may have fasted too long, and then after seeing like all the Dave Feldman stuff and like how the transport system and the trigs and everything, and I'm like, so now I know how to prepare for my next NMR, which actually showed me also the particle size and the particle count, and it showed that I was insulin sensitive, not resistant. And I thought doctors would be very, enthusiastic about those results. They never were. I actually got no compliments from any of the doctors.
No. And there's a reason why. You took away a profit margin for them. They can no longer prescribe you meds that they can make a kickback on. Now, what they need to do is like hook up with some of these like steak companies. Oh, wow, I'm gonna order you a butcher box, and that will be your prescription. And here's your prescription for your butcher box of steaks. And if they get a kickback from that, that'd be great. How cool would that be? I'm talking to like down the road, like
oh my God, that would be awesome. Or just hook you up with a local farmer or something, or some sort of network like that. Or how about having some sort of program for movement,
right?
Or a gym thing where a person can do that for free, or some sort of motivation, some sort of accountability thing, because it's. I do feel in the beginning, say you're 400 pounds, to the point you can't walk, your knees can't handle that kind of weight. So it's kind of difficult to do the movement at first. You may have to primarily focus on the diet, clean it. You put out the fire first, and then you kind of demo the house. And
that's what I did. I was 4'10". I'm also very tall, 6'3".
Oh, yeah.
But I'm 410 pounds, and that first month was all the Atkins diet. And then by month 2, I was so energetic, I had to go work out, and working out meant going on the treadmill at 3 miles an hour and huffing and puffing for 15 minutes, and it was great. But you kind of, there's an order of things, and our culture likes to say diet and exercise, diet and exercise, diet and exercise. And I'm thinking, no, it should be get your diet right to whatever's right for you, and when it's appropriate, add in the exercise. Now, I love that you told the story, by the way, that you kind of wish you had added in the jiu-jitsu and some of the other kind of strength training things while you were doing carnivore, but I don't think you were ready for it. I think some of that trepidation in your mind about, okay, I don't want to.
And it's in the mind too. Yeah. What? It's in the mind too. Like, what if this, I can lose weight with just diet only, but I don't want to lift iron. That's for men, or that's for athletes. That may not be for me, but it is for me. Who knew?
You know what it was for me when I was losing weight in 2004 on the Atkins diet? This is so lame. I didn't want to lift weights because I was worried about gaining weight. Now, how lame is that? Like in hindsight, I'm like, Jimmy, you should have been lifting weights. I did do the treadmill and the elliptical and the spin classes. I did all the cardio, but in hindsight, I'm like, ugh, I should have been doing that. And yes, it would have been maybe some extra weight on the body, but it would have been solid weight. It would have been weight that would have helped continue the benefits of all the fat loss that was happening. And so we fool ourselves into believing all this nonsense.
It is nonsense. And I would tell anyone, those people are like, oh, I don't want to do that because muscle weighs more. And I'm like, really, you're worried about that? You got like over 100 pounds to lose, and you're worried about, I don't know. I get DEXA scans, so I know my muscle mass. I know the visceral fat percentages, the bone density. I love testing. I love blood work. for a person that had to, stab herself every other day with poison, I do the Keto Mojo. I wear a NutriSense, IO, CGM. So I love taking blood and metrics, and it's all data, and I weigh myself every day, and I'm happy to report that today I'm 136.9 pounds, and I worked really hard to get up there because I was down to 126 at the end of 2020, and so I was 126, and I was wearing size 3-4 pants. Now I'm 136.9. I'm almost 137. I wear size 0.
Yeah.
So I am an extra small in a lot of shirts and everything. So my shape has changed, even though I'm a little bit heavier.
Yes.
Would I say, oh, I need to be, 113? I don't know what I'd look like at 113. I'm just trying to be strong.
Yes.
I'm just trying to be muscular and strong.
And let's get there towards the end of the podcast here. Let's talk about that for a second, because your mentality today is one of strength. It's one of I don't give two fucks. It's just so radically different than what you were circa 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when 14 years ago when all this started. And I want you to talk about that. How did that develop? Did it just develop because you did hard things, you accomplished hard things, and that like set in stone of your head, whoa, I did that. What else can I do? And you did something else a little harder, a little harder. Is it pushing yourself to your limits that gets you that way? How did you get there?
Well, I have to admit that the majority of my life, I lived in fear, Jimmy.
Yes.
Fear held me back. I was afraid of so many things. I was afraid of dying. I was afraid of diseases, germs, the whole thing. Now I'm like, I'm not afraid of anything, really. I'm really not. And it's so liberating. I feel so empowered and strong. I have days where I'm kind of sad about things, but it goes away as soon as I eat some steak. But it's really that I have hope now. I have hope, and I do still have a lot of anger issues toward my doctors. I tried to go back and tell them my results. I go into these Facebook groups for multiple sclerosis, and I try to give them hope, and they attack me. They're the worst. They are so angry at me. I also used to have pre-diabetes, and they also don't want to listen to the fact that type 2 diabetes is completely reversible.
Yes.
In very little time, in the first lockdown, we could have all wiped it all out, and no one wants to listen to it. So it's about embracing something you're afraid of and overcoming it. That gives you so much. I feel proud of myself, and I don't even care if other people feel proud of me. I really don't. I don't give a fuck. I just do what I do, and I'm going to keep doing it. And I feel like I'm stronger and more self-sufficient, and I'm capable. Do you know how hard it is to be a capable human being in this modern day? There's not a lot of capable people anymore.
There's people that want to be told what to do rather than picking themselves up, accomplishing the thing, and experiencing the strength that comes from that hard thing. Look, I'm in the midst right now of these 5-minute ice baths every single day for the whole year 2022. That's Jimmy pushing himself to do something hard. I injured my toes yesterday.
I saw your video.
I'm really sore today, but look, that's the price you pay, because look, if I get to the very end of 2022 and I've done 365 days in a row of at least 5 minutes in 32-degree Fahrenheit ice bath water, I'm going to feel so empowered and go, okay, what can I do even harder? And when hard things come in your life, when you've done hard things, it enables you to accomplish and overcome, other hard things. And so the fact that you get swept by a man in jiu-jitsu and you put on a little bit of weight, it's making you harder and stronger, not just physically, but mentally. Like, you're right. Most people, they don't ever work on this aspect of their health. We got the physical down. We want to lose the weight and get strong and blah, blah, blah. But we don't ever work on our mental strength. And so I love that you're an example of that, and you're doing it. You are strong.
Yeah.
And I will compliment you on how strong you are. I think you're a bad mama jamma. It's one reason I wanted you here on my podcast today. Guys, again, that's Kira Kellerman. Go check her out. I'm going to spell it one more time over on Instagram, KIROCHKA13S. Kirochka.
Kirichka, yeah.
Kirichka.
So, and I would just say, I kind of use my pain for all the things that have happened to me as my fuel. So one of my favorite people is David Goggins. He also uses pain. And I'm like, you're right. I do. I've had a lot of heartache in my life.
Yes.
I also just recently got divorced and everything. So that whole December 16th, 2018, in addition to being super sick that day and not getting any help shoveling the driveway, that's what kind of, did all that. And just a lot of heartache, a lot of pain. I use that as my strength and my fuel, and I just keep going. And I have been told that I'm too much for some people, and that's fine. Good.
I did a deal on Instagram with this lady that was talking. I did the little voiceover and says, "You say I'm too much. I say you're too basic." So,
yeah, right. Exactly. So.
Well, Kira, keep being who you are. You inspire me. You've been one of my biggest champions and fans all through my state sabbatical to 50 last year. You were one of the ones on there constantly encouraging, and you follow my work. And now you get to be a part of my work. You're on my podcast. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Jimmy.
Get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com. Woo!
You experienced the dreaded keto flu? Did you know that most of these symptoms are actually due to your body dumping excess electrolytes? This is where Element comes in. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt with no sugar. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited to folks following a keto, low carb, or paleo diet. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, with none of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. Everyone needs electrolytes, especially those on low-carb diets, or if you practice intermittent or extended fasting, if you're physically active, or sweat a lot. Add Element today and see how much better you feel and perform. Use the URL drinklmnt.com/Jimmy.